the biggest political person in terms of a non-politician that there is likely. And so, and then he did actually hand him over to the police. So I'm not sure why people are abusing his family and attacking them, but I would just like refrain from that. If, but anyway, that's my
And
opinion.
every single time, this is historical, by the way. This was true of David Kaczynski, who turned in his brother. It's just such a soul crushing, tremendous um, effect on the consciousness of the family member who has to do that. It sort of runs contrary almost to our DNA to turn in a family member, and it feels like betrayal, even though it's the right thing to do. But I totally agree with you. Now, getting back though to the Charlie Kirk situation, yes, Nick Fuentes is wrong about that. You know, I posted a little while ago that people who believe that speech is violence inevitably believe that violence is an acceptable response to speech. And what what entity in our society has promulgated this way of thinking? Well, the same entity that believes that the ADL should run our speech codes. I will have to say something about Charlie Kirk. He really was a free speech absolutist, or pretty damn near close to it. He thought that hate speech was bullshit. He's on the record for saying this, and it is bullshit. It's meant to silence people and not to hear what they have to say. And also, I really admired the whole prove me wrong thing. I never would want to do the Ben Shapiro or sometimes Charlie Kirk thing where I go on a college campus and make a young person feel bad, where they all of a sudden know that it's going to be a gotcha moment. But the fact that he sat down with Dave Smith, that really, really told me something. And I really believe that this sort of microdosing of a red pill, if we want to call it that, where he started noticing things about Israel, I really think that came from talking to people like Dave Smith. Look, if you're willing to listen, if you're willing to say, prove me wrong, and you're going to go up against, the A team like Dave Smith, there's a strong possibility that you might evolve in your thinking. So no, no. The answer to free speech you don't like, and this is the most odious free speech, by the way. So Nick Fuentes is right about that. This is the most odious free speech. And that's going to be the free speech that I protect. And if we don't, remember that is a cudgel that you're handing over to the state. Anybody that I've ever seen online, Nick Fuentes should understand this. If you decide that you're going to hand that over to the state, they're going to start censoring things that you don't like, buddy. It's not going to go your way. Once you give them that cudgel, and we know this, all of us know this, Ian Malcolm knows this from simple logical and factual posts that get shadow banned. If you hand that over to them, they're going to use it in a way that you don't like. No, no, free speech all the way.
Yeah, and Suli, just to fill in the airtime here, and I want to throw a question back to David because I always love the way that he looks at the world, not not just because it tends to sometimes parallel my own. But David, on that earlier, people were talking about free speech and utilizing that to suggest that others do and don't, because of their speech or their belief, have a right or a role to participate in different parts of society, whether it's being a doctor. I think was the example in the event that they are either pro-Palestinian or perhaps are pro-Israeli, pro-Zionist, and in favor of maybe the genocide of the Palestinians. I'd be curious just for your thoughts on that, maybe to fill in the airtime here for Sully.
Well, it's funny because look no further than one of the best docu-series that I've watched, or docudramas, was Chernobyl. And when you allow the authoritarians to determine who gets to do what and who gets to basically what we're talking about, if we go proceed down that road, is that the dumb people get to tell the smart people where they get to be to perform their, be a doctor or a nuclear physicist or anything else. And that is a bad, bad route. That is a devolution of thinking. It inevitably leads to a devolution of thinking. And what's really odd about that, of course, is that the more civilization builds echelons of thinking, the more we have specialization. And you're the specialist shouldn't, ideology is a truth inhibitor. Your doctor shouldn't, it shouldn't matter what their beliefs are and their personal beliefs. It's a matter of how well they practice their science. Well, of course, authoritarians don't think this way. They don't operate this way. And again, just like the free speech thing, once they start going down that road, then you know it's going to get worse and worse. It's inevitably devolutionary. Once you give them that power, they are never going to take it back. They're going to wield it in a more nefarious way.
I agree with
Just
David
some more
there.
breaking news, and then I'm going to give it straight to Adam, and then from Adam you can give it to Casey because I just need 30 seconds. But I got a tweet in the nest. 27-year, Tyler Robinson's father was the tweets in the nest. Tyler Robinson's father was a 27-year-old, sorry, not 27-year veteran law enforcement officer. So the father who turned him in was a 27-year-old law enforcement officer. That tweets in the nest. Also, guys, in the nest on the right hand side, there is the community, the X community that we built. We're going to put a lot of content on that. As you know, I'm debating Rabbi Shmuley and various other things are going to be happening. So go to the tweet in the nest, is the one on the right, and join the community. We've got over 2,400 people in here. Everyone can join the community. Everybody knows we're the only space on X that doesn't bot, and we're the only space that, and then with the hugest space, and that's only happened because of your support. So please continue to support, follow join the community, because we'll be putting more content about the things that we're doing, and
Hey,
including the
Suleiman,
spaces.
quick question. Do we know of any sort of social media posts from this guy? I'm sort of out of the loop on that one.
There's we've found his family's page, and his family obviously been abused. um his family or his parents there's a lot of pictures, like a lot of family pictures. He's got siblings, they have a lot of family outings. The parents are taking him to like shooting ranges and activities, and there's images of him with guns from the age of 11. In terms of his specific post, there is a post where he comments under a streamer's channel and basically threatens violence. um his own specific social media page I've not actually seen, but yeah, those are the content that we have at the moment.
Remember, the one
Let's go.
subject that they won't want to talk about is medication. It always we always end up figuring out that someone's on some kind of odd medication. So look for
Mm.
that because that's probably the thing that they are not going to want to talk about.
Yeah, so another thing was he was like a top student, an excellent student. I believe he had a 4.8, well, I posted it. He had a 4.0 GP, and he also had really good results. So yeah, he was like academically quite strong. Let's go to Adam. Sorry, Andrew, I interrupted you, and then straight from you go to Casey.
Sure. So I just believe that if you believe that someone should be punished with violence or death for their opinions, then that's wrong. Terrorism or totalitarianism, and so that's something I agree with on the right. But on the left, if you believe that someone should be identified, fired, and doxxed for their beliefs or opinions, then that's also totalitarianism. It's not their opinions and then punishing them for their opinions. I feel like that's a slippery slope. I feel like it sets a bad precedent. And I feel like there's a difference between inciting death, inciting and calling for murder. I feel like that's a crime, and that should be punished. But people have the right to mourn or not mourn whoever they want, and it can upset you, but to call for the state to get involved, I feel like that's just something that's it's a bridge too far for me. I believe in free speech. Like I'm one of the most ardent pro-Palestinian, anti-Zionist, anti-genocide people. Um, of people I know, and if someone supports the genocide in Gaza, if they call for people to be murdered, it's different. But if they just support Israel, I'm not calling for them to be fired. I've never actually called for anyone to be doxxed or fired. I've never actually done this. So it's yeah. I just like I said, I just don't believe in totalitarianism. Thanks.
Yeah, Adam, I agree with you. And thank you, Suleiman Khaleesi, for the space. Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody is doing well. Really nice panel that we have here. So I agree with you, Adam, with that. So I'll start with that because I did watch Nick's show yesterday. And I do think it was a brilliant show. I just don't agree with that part. He didn't call for like the state to come get these people, but he did say, these people need to be fired. And I get it. Everybody is like emotional, angry, in their own way, whatever, trying to figure this thing out. There's been a lot going on in the country, so I get it. But that I am vehemently against. Don't start making lists and stuff, but to get people, I'm sorry, like that's, unless you see somebody really say like, yeah, I'm about to go off a right winger at 4 p.m., okay, now we need to talk about something here. But as a person who has been on the receiving end of stuff like this, it is very easy for your words to be manipulated because watch this. I I do understand a person in Palestine who says, I don't care if Charlie Kirk was killed. I don't care how he was killed, right? So now if I say that I understand when somebody says that, or like somebody in America who might see their family getting killed and they say they don't care. So if I say I understand, should I be on a list too? So I don't do the list. I don't do these things. I know how fast they can, turn into something else. I'm not with it at all, at all, at all. Second thing I'm going to say is, so I see so-called this guy Tyler Robinson. This is who they're saying killed Charlie Kirk. His father turned him in. As far as him having guns at the age of 11, that actually doesn't shock me, being as though that he looks like he lived in this like woody mountain, that kind of hunting area that's like part of the culture and stuff. But I've seen people say this thing that like, oh, you see, it wasn't Israel. And first of all, nobody was only trying to point there. People were just trying to say that this is an option. Plus, in this country, I mean, nothing happens here without Israel being involved. I mean, even down to our water system. I mean, are you serious? So it's not crazy to think. And still to now, just so you know, but this is for me, I'm way too cynical with this government to even believe that this is the person that he did it on his own. How about that? I mean, come on, we have stories about this where Muslims were getting arrested with the Patriot Act for simply saying jihad because the FBI was doing entrapment with them, for other things. And then they arrested them, right? Sirhan is still in jail for so-called killing Robert F. Kennedy, except for the bullets went through the back of his ear. So, it's just, I live in a country where I know my government, it's just nothing but lies. I mean, look at 9/11, everything else. So that's for me. A patsy is not a new thought process. It just simply isn't. And again, when we know that influence in this country is actually more important, you could almost say, than the president. And so for somebody to be that influential, again, I'm not saying he was going to go start saving Palestinians, but to even question, Netanyahu and Israel and all of that, no. So I don't know. So for me, I know where I'm at with it, and that's fine. This isn't something I'm trying to convince anybody of. I live, perfectly fine in the name of the Lord. It is what it is. What can I do? But I've learned enough. How many patterns do I need to see? So I just, I stay aware. And I think, that's just pretty much it. I mean, I guess they got the shooter. By the way, the investigation too, whoever said it to you about the dad turned him in. Yeah, it was a disgrace. This FBI sucks. It was a disgrace because no matter how you feel about Charlie Kirk, he was Trump's like right-hand influencer, all that MAGA, going to the colleges and everything else. And it took this long. And not only did it take this long, but it wasn't even the FBI who found him. It was like the dad was like, yo, you got to go turn yourself in. How embarrassing for a superpower called America in 2025. This says a lot about the Trump administration. This is supposed to be his boy, Charlie. That's why there's too much written around this for me to take this at face value. But you know what? At the end of the day, I pray for the country. Maybe people can get some clarity and figure out what we're doing around here, because there's just way too much calamity at this point.
I just want to add on to Daco Casey, the point on Nick Fuentes. He was doxxed, and his address was put out there. And I didn't agree with that, him being murdered, potentially being murdered, and people going to his house based on his views. But a lot of women were angry at some statement he made. I can't remember the exact wording. They took it as him saying, if I want to put in some choice over your body, and you die, that's fine with it. And I'm like,
he said your body. He said your body, my choice.
Your body, my choice. Okay, yeah, I remember it was about abortion or something. I couldn't remember that. But so, anyways, I don't think he deserves to die over that, because when you put someone's address online and they have a lot of hates, they do that. So now for him to call for the thing in return for other people, it's just a shame. It seems he's supporting that thing that was done to him.
What do you mean by that? How is he supporting the same thing?
Well, he's supporting people get doxxed and their identities get publicized, and and
I don't think he said that. Doxxed. When did he say that?
Last night.
I didn't hear him say that last night. What I heard him say is that these people need to be ostracized from society.
Yeah, and to lose their jobs.
He said they need to be identified. That was the key thing that struck a chord with me, like the word they need to be identified.
So if somebody,
This is
but you're
also
comparing two
somebody-
totally
this is
different
also
things.
somebody
Hold on.
who
Let me.
jokingly encouraged
No.
the
Hey,
assassination
Sarah,
of
can I
Jackson
talk?
Hinkle.
You've been talking.
He literally encouraged
No,
the
he didn't.
assassination
No.
of Jackson Hinkle. Yes, he did.
So
Yes, he did.
Fuentes said I'm talking about last night. He said that these people need to be ostracized from society. You are comparing.
That's fine. No, I have no problem with ostracizing. That's fine.
No,
I
but you're
ostracize
comparing
away.
him saying
You
your body,
identify.
my choice to people calling for violence and encouraging violence.
I said no. Inciting violence, calling for violence is a crime that should be punished.
But he didn't do
what I
that.
said before.
Fuentes didn't
No,
do that.
No, that's what I said as well. You're putting words into my mouth. Okay. What I said before you came up on the bridge was there's a difference between inciting violence and celebrating the death of someone you don't like. Okay. And you can't. If someone incites violence, they should be arrested. That's a crime. But if someone doesn't respect someone that you respect, that's not a reason for you to put their address on the internet and invite people to come over to that address. That's it.
Well, I believe people who encourage violence and celebrate violence should be stricken from the internet as well, because
There's
all
a
they're
difference between encouraging
We've been
and
watching
celebrating, in
people
my opinion.
celebrate violence for 2 years. Can we go retrospectively do this? Or
Yeah,
retroactively
people
do this?
celebrate it every day about Palestine.
Every day.
Okay, so you're just, because of that, your excuse is,
just
well, we
because-
can't do anything about the past, but the future, we'll just let that go. That makes sense. That's brilliant. That's a brilliant
This
idea.
is the world we live in.
So Dennis,
This is the world we live in.
So Dennis, your position is from now, you want to censor everyone. So that's anyone who calls for violence or is happy about. So basically, and remember, this won't be applied consistently because the people deciding this are going to be Zionists. They're in power. But let's hypothetically go to the situation where we live in this utopian society where Zionists not are in power and they're not deciding this. Because really, what's going to happen is when this power is given, it's not going to be Zionists who are actually celebrating the death, the killing of children who are going to be censored. It'll be the pro-Palestinian accounts who are calling out the lies that they are doing. I'll give my own example where I've proven that the rape didn't happen October 7th. They'll use that and say, oh, he's a rape apologist. We need to ban him. And so what you're encouraging is mass censorship of people. But let's say hypothetically we live in your utopian society. In the real society, it's going to be us who get banned. It's going to be us who get censored. But let's go to this fake utopian society where it's not the Zionists in control. Even in that fake utopian society, there's going to be a huge mass censorship of so many people. So that would be all pro-Israel accounts, maybe even some pro-Palestinian accounts, maybe a large number of people on the left, maybe a large number of people on the right. I get a lot of threats from people on the right and the left, from both sides. Maybe a lot of people who are white nationalists, people who are black nationalists, people who are Muslim. There'll be a huge mass censorship. This will be the biggest mass censorship campaign in the history of civilization, more than even COVID. That's what you're asking for. So if that's fine, you can have that opinion.
Are we getting that we need to buy Palantir stocks if that's what we're doing?
Honestly, it's pretty Israeli to be doxing people when they say things you don't like the Canary Mission people and that Beta organization. Like they have all, and the Stop Anti-Semitism account. Like they literally dox people all day for their opinions, and I don't support that on our side. So if someone tomorrow said, the Palestinians deserved it, I'm not gonna say dox this person. This person needs to lose their jobs. That's their opinion.
Just to prove your point, Adam, I think your account's probably the same. I've been very consistent on that. I've never ever posted, even though I find Zionists to be the most vile people ever, the most horrific and horrendous people ever, I've never posted that this person, oh look, find this person, dox him, make him famous, or I've never posted anything like that because my values are consistent irrespective of if it's my enemy or not.
When John Milton, after he visited the great Galileo in prison, he came back and wrote Areopagitica, which is a treatise on free speech. And it's just wisdom that compels us to say, if you love free speech, then you will defend the speech that you hate. It always ends up the same. Suleiman is absolutely right here, as well as our friend. Once you go down that road, one of the points that John Milton made, and was just brilliant, is you won't know what you're not hearing. You won't know what the people that you handed this power to, foolishly, what they're not allowing you to hear. You don't want your media. You don't want this to be curated from you. One of the first things that Frederick Douglass said when he became emancipated as a slave, he said censorship is a double wrong, because it's not just an offense against a person's right to speak, but against a person's right to hear. And I want to hear the best arguments, maybe the most odious arguments, but each man who would deign to censor his fellow man at once enslaves himself. So no, 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 free speech all the way. Don't do it. Don't give this power. If you give this power to other people, you're going to give it to the worst people, the dumbest people, and you don't get it back. They're never going to render that back to you.
And if I
Could
could
I
just
engage
add,
with Adam? Go
if
ahead,
I could just
David.
add real quick on, I'm sorry, real quick, because David, I think really yesterday he was in that moment and said these things and was getting angry, because when you step back and calm down, I know it was a little, but I mean, but I feel like when you step back and you think twice, you should come to the conclusion that we should not be doing this at all, because you're right, David. It's never going to be, you know what I mean? Like it's never going to be just the people who are smart who are going to have the control. It's going to be a bunch of angry people, and they're going to and that kind of anger eats itself up. It'll eat you up, and it'll eat itself up. We just can't have it. We just cannot have it.
In this
I
society,
know
it
how
won't
people are
even be
feeling.
angry people. It'll be the Zionists. Like, you think
True.
you think when they do this mass censorship, they're gonna go to like Suleiman and be like, well, actually, I wouldn't be part of mass censorship, so I'd reject it. But let's say, do you think they'd go to someone like Nick and be like, Nick, oh, please give us a list of all the people that you believe should be censored based on your ethics? Of course not. It's gonna be Zionist-controlled, Zionist people who are controlling the Trump government now, which people have been complaining about for 8 or 9 months, who are going to make the decisions on the censorship, just like, and it's not something unique. They've already been doing this. They've been going to people walking down the streets, people writing op-eds, grabbing them, holding them, deporting them. This is now the next level acceleration. It's going to be done by them, for them, and there's no doubt about that, unless you think society is going to change.
The State Department
Can,
has said that they're going to ban anyone who celebrated or trivialized Charlie Kirk's death from coming into America. And the people who support Palestine, basically, who are critical of Israel, have also been banned. And you may still celebrate this now, but wait until a Democrat government comes in and uses this president that's been set. But yeah, sure. Over to you, Divisive.
I agree. I said that earlier. I said things always ebb and flow. The Democrats were in charge before, and they did the censorship. Now these guys are supporting censorship, the Republicans, and sooner or later, because it always goes to extremes, in about 4 to 8 years, it's going to flip back again to the other side, and then you'll be the same people who are complaining that you've been censored. Go ahead, Sarah.
Just like to piggyback, Casey and I have been down in the trenches yelling at people for the last 2 days. We were doxxed under the Democrats. We were harassed under Democrats. It was Democrats that harassed, doxxed, and ruined my life. And I think that Biden was president when Casey was doxxed and harassed. And lost her job. Like, this is exactly right. It's the pendulum swings back and forth, and I will never, ever, ever endorse employing any methods to get someone fired, let alone, and then Adam brought up a perfect point, the state. They're weaponizing the state to get people fired. This is psychotic. This is a place you do not want to take things, because once you start taking things down this road, things get really bad. And I just sent a video to Sully, and I'm wondering if we can discuss that, because I think people are encouraging more violence. I think it's a terrible idea to have Ben Shapiro take over Daily Wire. I don't really think Trump's words are that constructive. I don't know. I think that this is something that they're really going to capitalize off of to divide us further. Look at the people leading the crusade to get people fired. They're the normal, divisive, ridiculous, hardliner people. It's just sorry, I keep saying divisive. It's the usual
Did you hear that,
suspects, if you
Divisive?
know.
It's your fault.
it's always my fault,
It's
David.
his fault because he put out all the divisive content. Yeah, and now look at us.
I definitely have a different opinion when it comes to the doxing thing. I want to be clear. I have never called for censorship of my political opponents, and I'm not calling for it now after Charlie Kirk's death. But I want to engage
And
with
by the way,
Adam because
sorry, Divisive, I'm going to go let you
Go
go.
ahead.
But you guys talked about Democrat, like doxing. Like, when I basically pushed back against this claims about the grooming gangs in the UK, my address got doxed by people on the right. So both people dox, right? Both people do that. So in reality, the issue is now when we're encouraging it, it just demonstrates that you've got a scenario. And by the way, the left was always worse for it. Everyone got mass censored by the left. And now it's the right. And this is why I said people don't have So when people called for free speech, they didn't actually believe in it. They only believed in their own speech not being censored. And this is, again, additional proof of this. But sorry, Divisive, go ahead.
No, you're right. And you know my story. I was doxxed and had my business attacked by the LGBTQ community. It really affected my life in a serious way. I do want to say something. I'm not calling for censorship. I never have. But I want to talk about this doxing thing. I would love to have a little back and forth with Adam. He said he would never call for someone to be doxxed based on what they said on the internet. And I think this is where Nick clarified later. I wholly disagree with the statement that the platforms or the government should be censoring people in any way. And he did say that. I think he was angry. But he did go on later in that stream to kind of clarify that he was calling for social suppression. He was calling for social consequences to these things. And where this doxing thing, I am someone who has had my life ruined by doxing. And what I'm telling you is the difference between me and Adam is I would call for someone to lose their job. And what situation is that? Well, if I saw a social media post of a teacher in my town and she was making pro-pedophile statements, I would absolutely want her identified. I would want those videos sent to her job, and I would want her removed. If I lived in a town and we had a local hospital where a nurse was talking about on her TikTok, I won't treat Trump supporters, I will let them die in their beds. I believe that person needs to have those videos sent to their employer and they need to be removed from society. I don't believe in
those are
doxing.
both criminal offenses, though.
Yeah, that's,
hold on.
you're misinterpreting what I said. I said I don't support.
Can I clarify? Can I finish and I'll let you go?
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
My statement is there is a difference between doxing someone and ruining their life over a political opinion and pointing out that someone is being dangerous. And there are people on TikTok, on X, on social media who are in positions where they are dangerous people. And the statements they are making are not illegal, by the way, Adam. I used examples that said, that was illegal. It was calling for violence. But there are people who are creative that imply, without breaking the law, that they will treat people differently based on their political beliefs in a way that will cause real world harm. So as someone who's been doxxed, I will not sit here and say that I would never use internet content to have someone fired, because I do believe there's situations where it is extremely appropriate and necessary if we want to have a functioning society. Go ahead.
Well said, Divisive. And that's exactly what you said it much better than I. And then the other thing is, you guys are either free speech absolutists or not. And if you're a free speech absolutist, then you would say, no, Divisive, you're wrong. If someone does say that, a teacher that says that I'm okay with child pornography.
This is the thing. Yeah. Okay. So this is the thing you're both not getting from what I said.
Just some breaking news, and then I'm going to give it straight back to Adam for you guys to continue this discussion. So the first breaking news is, it was not breaking news. Actually, I shouldn't have breaking, but anyway, is this the guy? And it's a bit weird. It adds to the people who think like Israel was involved. But George Zinn, who was arrested at the Charlie Kirk shooting, was in a 9/11 video. In the video, he says Al Qaeda was responsible for 9/11 attack. Sorry, he knew Al Qaeda was responsible for the 9/11 attack the moment he saw the towers fall. Is that him, or is that just a different guy? I don't know. It sounds weird. And then the other thing is, sorry. And the other thing is this, just to add to the point, this is what Yashar Ali said, just because all the people who are speaking for censorship, I'm telling you, you guys will be censored as well, I guarantee it. This is what Yashar Ali said, who is actually probably more aligned with the people who will decide the censorship. He said this: authorities notably did not reveal why Tyler Robinson hates Charlie Kirk. They just said that he hated him and had gotten more political in recent years. A reminder that Charlie was hated by a wide variety of people, including neo-Nazis, and I think he's clearly talking about Nick Fuentes' movement, who believed he was the tool for Israel and the Jews. The anti-fascist engraving means nothing if they don't match with the rest of his ideology and communication. So just to let you know that this is the things that you're calling for, guys, I'm guaranteeing you it will be used against you because you're not in power. But sorry, go ahead, Adam.
Sure. So to respond to Divisive and Dennis, I don't think you understand my position. So I think I'll reiterate what I said. So I said inciting violence is different from celebrating it, and inciting violence is a crime. Celebrating it is a personal opinion. You know, so if someone celebrates the genocide in Gaza, that's their opinion. If someone calls for someone to be murdered because they object to the Gaza, or they target someone and they say this person should be murdered, then I object to that. So I'm not actually a free speech absolutist at all. And divisive, your points about those people, I agree with you. If someone says that they're not going to treat someone based on their political beliefs that will lead them to die, in my opinion, that is illegal. I feel like that's at least I feel like that is breaking some kind of law. And
Well, that's a threat.
pedophilia.
That's a threat.
That's a threat. There we go. That's a threat. And I don't agree. And I don't agree with threats. And also pedophilia is illegal. So if someone is endorsing pedophilia, I feel like that's pedophilia is a red line. So I'm not actually a free speech absolutist. I just believe there's a difference between inciting violence and celebrating violence. And you can disagree with me on that. But if you want to, because you said there's a fine line, and the tricky thing is when you're trying to define that fine line between, where do you go into? Because you said there was like a subtle implication. It's like someone doesn't do anything illegal; they're not actually inciting any violence, but there's like a subtle implication, and it's like who do we trust to set the precedent and to enshrine as normal, like in defining where that line is, and I just feel like that's an entirely slippery slope, and it's just adding on to this negative feedback loop between the right and the left, where political opinions that you decide are just crossing your line deserve doxing. Because in my opinion, doxing is almost like that's almost like a death. It's not attempted murder, but it's like you dox someone, their address is going to go out there. People can come after you for your opinions, and it could lead to your death.
100%. That's what happened if someone
But
doxes his address and then people try to kill him.
Yeah,
That fine line's never going to go away either, though. I mean, unfortunately, it's never going to be black and white. It's always going to be a gray area, and it's always going to be open for interpretation.
I would say that anyone who goes down
who makes that interpretation?
Right. That's where I was going with this. Anyone who goes down that censorious road, if you add back the prepositions to your line of thinking, it makes more sense. When you say, I think we should have censorship for issue X, then say by whom? Or I think the power of censorship should exist. Okay, from whom? Start thinking about the people that you're handing that power over to, and then ask yourself, who are these people? I would just want you to go, Christopher Hitchens used to do this in a crowd. Just ask, who in this crowd would you want to give the power over what you are allowed to hear and say? To whom would you give that power? So once you add back in the prepositions, it starts to make sense. Hopefully wisdom prevails afterwards.
Let's bring in Jay.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Appreciate the mic, Sully. Great conversation, hitting most, pretty much all of the important points as usual, but definitely wanted to add a few. But before I do that, everyone make sure you repost the space. Let's amplify this message even further and let people know the truth about how this situation is going to be weaponized. But, if you just look at how Republican politicians, in particular, are responding to the event, I think you have a clear idea of what the agenda is. The facts back up what Sully is saying. Like, there are Republican congressmen right now going on Twitter saying they're going to use their power to get the profiles pulled down of anybody who is, quote unquote, making light of Charlie Kirk's death. So think about that. That's not even threatening to amplify the violence. They're literally saying making light. Imagine how many different ways that phrase can be interpreted. So, they're calling for that. We already know there's a push for the surveillance state and the Palantir police state to be, weaponized. And, something as high profile as this, is only going to, amplify that call. So, Palantir was mentioned before. For those who don't know, Peter Thiel is also directly connected to, the Israeli, CIA intelligence alliance. And, he makes money off all this. And, just look at the reaction, from, what do you call it, from the FBI. Now they're literally laying out all the different agendas they want to promote at the same time. They said there was a message on the bullet that, correlated with the trans community, with people who and they're suggesting, it could also be, a foreign agent. I've seen the FBI post yesterday. They think a foreign agent, was involved, in the process, and we know they're currently trying to manufacture war with Iran. So, if you look at the timing on how everything happened, I tried to entertain all different possibilities on why he could have been assassinated. And the truth is, he was a very influential, person in the Republican Party, not just because of his voice and his following, but because of his organization that was essentially grooming the next generation of Republicans and recruiting people for intelligence agencies. So, his organization, Turning Point, was essentially that. It was, the Republicans recruiting team on college campuses, and like I
Yeah, I
said,
don't think so.
there's also a lot of evidence he was working with intelligence agencies. So, if you look at the ultimate, if you look at where that leads to, he could have also hypothetically been trying to seize more power if he wanted to set up the Republican Party in a different way. So while there's a chance maybe he could have done that for personal bad reasons, the evidence seems to point to them being scared of an anti-Zionist movement, popping up, inside the party. Because literally, some of his last words in live interviews were, the last interview he had with Megyn Kelly, he spoke about pushing back on the Israeli narrative. He mentioned how, Mossad could be connected to Epstein. He questioned whether or not we should be allowing Israel to win, quote unquote, the war like this. So, he played both sides, of the Israel issue towards the end. He didn't really come out as fully pro-Palestine, and most of his
That's
life
right.
was
That's
spent,
true.
serving the establishment. But just because he had a little bit of a different opinion towards the end, they took him out. I mean, I hope everyone in the establishment, looks at what happened there, because, like, you can get taken out
Just
at
to
the
add to
drop
what
of
you're
a hat.
saying, I'm just
Yeah.
looking at this. Candace Owens just tweeted out. She said, "Bibi Netanyahu lied about the contents of the letter Charlie wrote to him in May. It was a lie by severe omission, and it isn't sitting right with me. He held the letter in his hand and propagandized it. He should publish the entire thing." So I don't know what she's. I mean, I don't know what she's trying to claim is in the letter. But that is what she's saying. Maybe I don't know. I don't know what she's alluding to. I think she needs to be a bit more clear on that. But maybe she'll do that in or on her show. Sorry, did I interrupt you, Joe? Did you finish your point?
Yeah, I was finishing up now. So I just want everyone to remember how it's going to be weaponized and to look out for that too, because they're really doubling down on a lot of these war efforts right now. And Israel wants to manufacture consent for war with Iran, not just to finish off what's happening in Gaza, but they plan on restarting the war in Iran. So if they find a way to try to blame this on Iran, that some like the fact that they're trying to tie in Iran, the trans community, and Democrats all at once, it tells you it's a divide and conquer strategy. So pay attention to their goals and recognize that they can easily be stopped if we know what's going on and get the message out there. So appreciate the mic, and yeah, great conversation.
And I will add to his point that now is the time to lock and bolt the door to free speech, because just as he's saying, when war is instigated, that is generally the most censorious time. Generally, when there's a war, that is when it is considered to be the most anathema to the state to say anything that is contrary to that war effort. You're being accused of being a traitor or an infidel or something like that. So, in times of relative peace, is the time to lock down our point of view on free speech.
Exactly. And really quick, don't forget, falling into the trap of demonizing the other side is a mistake. There was an assassination of two Democratic lawmakers over in Minnesota, I believe, last month. So, violence happens on both sides. Both sides contribute to it, and it needs to be called out equally. Violence is never a responsible reaction to words. And, I agree with the other speaker's previous points about censorship. Like, I disagree with Ian on a ton of issues. I think he has some idiotic opinions and some dangerous opinions, but I wouldn't call
Like
for
what,
him to
Jay?
be censored. I wouldn't call for that.
Jay, could you just list a couple since that's such an inflammatory remark?
No, listen, I don't want to
Yeah,
get into that.
Jay.
I
Look,
don't want to
listen,
get
Jay.
into
Why
that.
would you do that? Like, I don't get it.
I'm
Like,
just saying
we're having a
No, I'm just
civilized
gonna
I
punch
don't
you
conversation.
in the
agree with
balls as I
Yeah,
censorship
walk by, and
because
just
he
continue
interrupts me
my
all the
day.
time. This is
Well,
the
he didn't
first
do it
time
this
I've been able
time.
to get a
Jay,
coherent thought without him interrupting me.
he didn't
Just
interrupt you now. You just decided to insult him.
I didn't insult him. I just said
You just
Wait,
called him
wait,
an
I
wait,
idiot.
think
what?
that's just my opinion. That doesn't mean
Yeah,
I'm
okay, so
right.
he
Jay,
thinks you're,
Jay, thank you for
bro.
this. It's wonderful.
Jay, this is ridiculous. Like, this is a bang out of order. It's just embarrassing. Like, why would you
I'm
have an?
not allowed to have an opinion.
Okay, so then he can call you a retard and he can start swearing at you, and then you'll swearing it back. But maybe you should go to a different
I
space
didn't
that you
say
want to do that.
anything insulting. I just said I
Well,
think
you
he
called
has
him an
some bad
idiot. Calling someone
opinions.
an idiot is an insult.
I said I think he has
Okay, idiot,
idiotic
shut up. All right,
opinions.
idiot,
I
shut up.
said I think he
All
has
right, idiot.
idiotic.
All right, idiot, shut up. You can see it is an insult. It comes across very bad. I don't actually think you're an idiot. I'm just trying to demonstrate you it is an insult. I like you, Jay, but you just do this on my space all the time. Either you're advertising or you try and cause like drama. Let's go to let's who's gonna cause less drama. Let's bring Red in, and then we'll bring Dalton in for the drama. Go ahead, Red.
Hi, thanks, Sully. It's always beautiful space. Lovely to see all the beautiful faces on the panel. So, if I may, I'm going to just, on principle, just because to qualify, because there's a lot of listeners. I've been around assassinations, and I've been around in societies when assassinations of such magnitude, someone who has a lot of following, a lot of people who love him, happen, and what happens in society, and especially when we see the actual footage, and we see blood, and we see, whether it's an exploding car or a sniper bullet. So what happens during that time is emotions get really, really high, and the people who hold good feelings and love towards the guy who's got assassinated, they look at the other side of the political spectrum with a lot of suspicion and almost contempt, and this is normal. The problem also, what I see, is that the last, if we look like, I don't know, 6 years until today, what happened was the polarization within the politics in the United States has gone extreme, where one side says about the other side Hitler, and the others, and there was like the political spectrum has turned into the other side is the enemy, like literally the enemy, and that's not good. That's not a good sign in any society. So also what happens is when one side, let's say the left, goes extreme left, then the extreme on that side, action reaction in societies and in politics, creates another extreme pushing back harder uh, to the right, and this is what we see. I mean, and it was insane. I mean, I will never forget the time I think they were selecting someone to become a judge on the Supreme Court, and that Congress lady asked that the lady who was being interrogated, whatever it's called, by Congress, what's a woman?
Justice Kavanaugh.
Yeah, yeah, what's a woman? And then a judge like that's going to be a judge on the Supreme Court. She's like, I'm not a doctor or something like that. So that level of extreme the left took things is creating that reaction on the right, and
So
then you bring, yeah, tell
yeah, I
me, tell me,
appreciate that,
sir.
Red. Thanks for that.
Uh,
Just a quick one, guys. I'm just reading. Just one of the things that was mentioned in the press conference. I just want to highlight is this, because I'm getting a lot of messages and from people who haven't come up on the stage, but are just giving me their thoughts, and they're arguing that this guy wasn't left wing. Just to give you the different perspectives, I know we've got many people on here, or mainly more towards the right, and they're saying that couple of things, a couple of points of evidence. Obviously, we know his dad was definitely his family were definitely registered Republicans. In addition to that, the gun, they mentioned this in the press conference, right? The gun was actually, someone on Discord was communicating with Tyler Robinson and told him where the gun would be. So it may not even be that he's the one who procured the gun or did the writings on the gun. So that's an important point to note. I'm not saying it is or isn't, but I think it's a very important point to note. The second thing is, in terms of anything else, their argument is that he actually wore MAGA shirts and so on and so forth. So this is his family, obviously definitely Republican, probably definitely MAGA. His father obviously handed him in. But in terms of him himself, his parents said he was radicalized, which seems to suggest that he had a kind of alt opinion to them. But then I'm just giving you all perspective. So that's just some of the news and information that we're getting out. And I've just seen some more news, which seems a bit mental. America just... Okay, so yeah, there is... Okay, so they want to designate in the US, on this was on January the 9th, but I believe it's just been made public. A resolution has been put into the House to make Antifa and designate it a domestic terrorist organization. So, guess there was going to be a massive there is a massive, basically, digression in politics in terms of people's views and thoughts. Dalton, jump in.
Hey, what's up?
Is this your like 100th account or something?
Yeah, we're this is what we have to do, Suleiman,
Sorry,
unfortunately.
I didn't finish.
I just want to say, over the past few days, I've been trying to ultimately avoid a lot of the conspiracy theory angles, because I know where I'm immediately going to start looking. And I think that, the day of, I was really adamant about trying to push people away from, just posting absurdist information or fake information for the sake of clicks or engagement or what have you. But the more that has come out, the more that's been found to be legitimate is genuinely shocking. I cannot believe the hubris and the total just ludicrousness of Israel, if they are, which they seem to be directly involved in this. It blows my mind. It shocks me to my core that you have someone like Benjamin Netanyahu going on TV, and I mean, it just comes off as really weird to surface level. Forget all the information that's coming out. Forget everything else that's attached to it. Just on the basic fundamental level of this guy going on TV and feeling the need to be like, hey, we're not behind this. That's weird, right? Like right out the gate. And now you have all this other stuff coming out. I mean, did he disassemble the rifle before running into the woods and then reassemble it and then put it into a box? That doesn't make any sense. He's communicating on Discord with someone who's telling him where the weapon is going to be found. And, did he do these engravings? There's so much here that is genuinely bizarre. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, even with the Kennedy assassination, I don't know if it's because we live in the digital age and information is more readily available to us, but I just say, while we sift through all this information, definitely be vigilant and have confidence in what you're sharing and what you're posting. Because if you start sharing misinformation, false information, or you're going to the craziest extremes, like people saying this is an impossible shot. It's not an impossible shot. It's a 30-06 at 200 yards away. The average infantryman in the United States military, which I was for 3.5 years, knows how to shoot anything up to 300 meters 20 times over. Okay? This is not a very difficult shot. Anybody that spends enough time at the range could easily do this, especially at a stationary target. So I would just caution people from going down that path of essentially claiming that, oh, it's impossible, this or that. It's not impossible, but it is undeniable that this looks like it's collusion of some kind, and that people are working together. Very powerful people are working together to make this happen, and that is a frightening fact.
How can you say that?
And I think this is going to change
what you say.
The course of history in this country, we legitimately have not seen anything like this since the Kennedy assassination.
Can I ask a quick follow-up question to that? Just on the timing, you don't think the timing is strange, considering he was just under fire for being anti-Semitic from Zionist media? Like, I hear you on the possibility of someone else doing it on a whim, but doesn't the timing just raise some questions for you?
It has. I've seen there's been some misinformation. People were saying, he did this podcast where he criticized Israel the day before. Really, it was like 6 months ago or something. I do believe, though, that, and Suleiman, I heard you yesterday. I wasn't able to hear it all, so I don't know if your position has changed or if you would like to elaborate on this. I heard yesterday the discussion being had, Charlie Kirk's mind really wasn't being changed. He was a Zionist. I believe that Charlie Kirk, since 2018, has known the truth about Israel. But I also believe that he was so incredibly ingrained in the establishment. He was so inside that it became relatively impossible to express those viewpoints, even if he didn't necessarily believe them at the
I don't
time.
even think it's that, Dallin. I think that what happened was over the last 2 years, people just became so anti-Israel. You're a fan and you're friends with Nick, right? So you know, like Nick was taking all of his moat. Nick was
Yes.
taking all of all the youngsters, and so him completely not even speaking about any issue related to them, whether it's Epstein or October 7th or a few other issues, it would have been more of a point where more he would have lost more of a following, and so therefore I believe he just threw some of those nuggets in order to
Yeah.
just try and hold on to a little bit of his following because it was massively moving towards Nick.
I completely agree with you, and I think that this has been a trend of Charlie Kirk's career for years. Anyone that's been following it knows Charlie Kirk's positions on things like white replacement were impacted by and homosexuality and other issues were impacted directly because of Groyper War, essentially, and the pressure that young right wing radicals like myself and others were applying that pressure. Um, Now it became sort of inescapable, I believe, for many conservative commentators to sit there and ultimately defend Israel for the sake of defending Israel. You can't do that anymore. People are so aware, and it's so obvious to us that they are our enemy. You have to at least say something, right? And Charlie Kirk, I believe, felt that. And if they were going to take him out, this would be the time to do it. Bibi Netanyahu did not explain that Charlie Kirk denied the trip invitation. Charlie Kirk denied the trip invitation. That's crazy. And Bibi Netanyahu wants to go on national television and say that he was the greatest supporter of Israel and all this stuff, and that he won't be able to attend the trip. It's not that he won't be able to attend the trip. It's not just that. He denied to attend the trip. And there's so much other stuff. So I'll leave my point at that. I'll let other people talk here. But I think that as someone who's been trying to avoid the conspiracy stuff, it has become very obvious to me that Israel is at least involved in some capacity. There's no way to deny it.
I'm still open about that, but let's see. I'm more inclined towards it as time's going on, especially when you find a new information. But for me, it's like it just needs to be solid before I make that argument.
I respect. I respect that.
Sarah, jump in.
Well, this kind of ties into what Dalton's also saying about it. I have too been making a concerted effort to not fall down any conspiracy rabbit holes, and the truth coming out today is incredibly strange. Also, Benjamin Netanyahu's Lady Macbeth media tour for the last 48 hours has been kind of awkward and very weird for a foreign leader to insert himself so centrally in a very domestic thing, regardless of Charlie's political views or where he has or hasn't traveled to. Then we have the Antifa Discord servers. I really caution people from calling them Antifa. I think, and not because I'm Antifa or because I'm pro Antifa, but because these Discord servers aren't Antifa in the sense that you are thinking of the left that rioted during George Floyd's 2020, the protests. This Antifa, they're accelerationists that want to usher in the downfall of the state. It sounds very similar to the last mass shooter with the ideologies and the memes written all over his guns and bullets. It seems very, very consistent to that. You guys have to start looking into these comm groups on Discord and then we have to find out, like, not just the kids, who is in there in these Discord servers manipulating the situation, changing the conversation, pushing these kids towards more extreme outcomes. These comm groups aren't secret anymore. They're very well known. So there very well could be state actors or alternate actors in these Discord groups accelerating these events.
If I could just I'm sorry I don't know if you had breaking news, but if I could just kind of back that up too, because that's the thing about technology, and now with Discord and stuff like that, that's the same thing again they did to the Muslims. The FBI had, what was it, AOL chat Remember AOL where you had the microphone and all of that? That's what they did. Poor guys. It probably was two real Muslims in there and then like 17 FBI agents in there. Okay. So like this is the pattern of the American way. And I would caution to call things Antifa as well. It's funny because I was thinking about that, right? Because and of course nobody's here is Antifa, but the same way how they say Hamas sympathizer, Antifa. Now, when I hear these labels, I'm like, they're going to give me that label. Because you know how the government works. If you don't go with them 100%, you now become the problem. You now become the terrorists, Hamas, Antifa, whatever they want to call you. They might even call Ian BLM if
But
they
you're right. You're right about
wanted
that.
to.
And by the way, like this censorship that people are calling out for already, that Yasser Ali and a few others are saying that this guy might have been radicalized by neo Nazis. When they say neo Nazis, they mean Nick Fuentes and all his crew. So when the censorship occurs, they're gonna come after them as well. So this is why I think we should be very careful when we speak call for censorship. But go ahead, Dago.
Yeah, now and to finish up with the guy, bringing it back to the guy. So when you look at this person, right? They said he was autistic, like high functioning. I'm sure very smart. You said he had a 4.8 average and all of that. So it gives that whole social awkwardness or whatever. Easily manipulated, sadly. Great with the books, but still wants acceptance in an extreme way. It's very easy to take advantage of people like that, especially when you are trained to do so. Okay. And so now, yeah, them giving us this, listen, and I said giving, I'm just saying, whatever. This white boy who now gets to be everything, mental health, a Nazi, but he's Antifa, like literally it just encompasses everything. So now they could just, it just opens the floodgates for, and it opens the floodgates for what they want, mass surveillance. Somebody told me yesterday, oh, you need to step back into reality. This is reality. When I go to the airport, it takes me forever just to get on the daggone, to board, because we have to do a bunch of stuff for after, 9/11. Are you serious? I'm 40 years old. Life changed after 9/11. It's just been more surveillance after surveillance after surveillance, more paperwork, more legislation being written for our safety. I don't need all that safety. You know what I'm saying? So
People like
I'm
her go
almost
on
done. But
Spirit Airlines and beat
even
the
yes,
shit out of
this
each
will be
other.
used for everything. And I'm going to say the last part about Charlie Kirk. I am not ever going to sit here and act like, oh, he was a saint. He was, like I said, you can see my replies to him. I was vehemently against the way he would use evangelism in this Christian Zionist way, because that is not what it's supposed to be about at all. So I was vehemently against him that way, and any other ways. I would have loved to have debated him, but somebody decided that I couldn't. Okay, so, but these people are now saying, well, Charlie was writing a
This
book
woman thinks she could
that
debate
was going
Charlie
to
Kirk.
explain how Jews and Christians come together with the Shabbat. And I don't care about a Saturday worshiper. I am a Saturday worshiper, but it's not supposed to be about Jews and Christians melding together. What is going on? So, and now all of a sudden they're like, we're going to finish the project. He was going to, teach people about all of this. We're going to finish it now. We're going to do it in his honor. They are getting, it's all about influence and infiltration. They're going to do it with the churches, with the influencers, all of these guys. I trust none of these content creators online. This is a turning point. This really is.
Javinja.
She don't trust us, Sully. Did you hear that? Casey hates us now.
Yeah, man. I mean, what do you call it? You guys are pretty much hitting like all the key points. I actually do gotta jump off now, but great space, and yeah, keep the conversation going.
Casey's 100%
Thanks.
right, man.
Thanks for letting us know.
If I could touch on Casey, she's 100% right. First thing I want to say is we gotta watch, make sure he makes it to trial. Like he's gonna get killed in jail, like some Jack Ruby type figure comes and just loved Charlie Kirk so much that he had to take out this Robinson guy. And I think it's important, like the Discord thing. It's a classic thing. People get groomed all the time online through chat rooms, and Casey was 100% right when she said, he's smart. But like you said, like you pointed out in the video, Suleiman, he didn't seem like the most charismatic individual, and he definitely probably found a community online, like many do, from at certain points in their lives, and he you have to wonder who was in those groups, right? But you have to wonder who is truly in those groups because right now Israel's going to come out and say an Iranian was grooming him and convinced him to do this to suppress pro-Israel voices, and they're going to say this is an act of war on our youth
They're already doing
and
that.
on
They're
the
already
U.S.
posting some fake anonymous Twitter account, which is not being verified at all, claiming it's him.
What, an Iranian?
Well, they're saying he's pro-Palestinian.
Yeah, and socialist. Yeah.
I think that was too shocking for Ivy. Go ahead,
The
Divisive.
there's one quick, really quick, if I could. There's a really great book called The Terror Factory, I believe. Let me make sure that's the real title, but it's about how how the government has gone and radicalized people using online chat rooms and convincing them to either attempt to or to commit domestic acts of domestic terrorism and then to arrest them. Now, I'm not saying that
What's it
this
called?
is. I
The Terror
believe it's
Factor?
called Terror Factory. I'm gonna
No,
make
Sarah.
sure.
Even the Gretchen Whitmer, the governor in Michigan, that was it was entrapment. Like they convinced them, hey, let's go do this. Like they were buying pizzas for them and stuff,
That
like
was on
setting up meetings.
Facebook, right, Ivy? That was on Facebook where they got those guys, right? From
I'm
the
not sure, but
kidnapping case.
I don't think the venue doesn't matter. Like, so Discord, the Nepalese kid decided who the new leader is on Discord. That's just my generation's thing, right? This is exactly where they know exactly where you'd find someone like this that's vulnerable, that's intelligent, that's capable of doing something like this. It's not a mess. And
Yeah, it's called The Terror Factory.
yeah, it's I mean, they definitely stepped up, and not like the dude in Butler was a total mess. Like this person was at least like mentally competent.
Jump in, Divisive.
Yeah, I just want to respond to your comments earlier about his family being Republican. This is a conversation I've had with many family members, and there's a lot of people, as you pointed out, that are attacking his family online. This young man was attending college on a full ride, and you will not believe how many conversations I've had with parents in churches, parents in entrepreneurship groups who have said that they've literally lost their children after they went to college, that their children are actually different people who hate their own family, people who are unhappy and on medication, people who have changed the things they do in their lives to being a functional, productive person, to being someone who is actually self-destructive. And I think that conversation, you're starting to see comments from people on the right wing talking about radicalization on college campuses. And I think this goes back to the point Riyadh was trying to make when he mentioned that we have Supreme Court justices who refuse to say that men and women are different. This is someone who is serving on the Supreme Court of the United States, who has academic qualifications that 30 years ago wouldn't have been questioned by anyone. But because of the state of the American psyche, the American population is sick. A huge portion of the country is obese. A huge portion of our women are on SSRIs. A huge portion of our men are addicted to porn and gambling and all these self-destructive things. And as that has become more socially acceptable, the increased frequency of these types of events have also increased. And causation is not correlation, but there is definitely a mental health crisis and a lack of purpose crisis in America, where these young people are being told you can be important, you can be remembered. Everyone on the internet will say your name. If you do this horrible thing, you will live forever. And they have no other positive purpose in their life. So it makes them easy targets for situations like this, especially when you have psychological operations experts that are used to identify these people.
You know what's interesting? This kid got 34 on the ACT. That's actually the same score as Nick Fuentes got on it. And I didn't take the ACT, I took the SAT, and if you convert it, it's around the score I got. So it's
Wow,
kind of funny.
congratulations, Ivy. You get in there and make this about you.
No, I'm just saying it's kind of
Sarah
interesting.
loves you, Ivy.
I looked up the
When are you
chart.
guys dating? Live stream it.
No,
I am
she
not
loves
single.
Baghdad. Look at her banner. She loves Baghdad. Is that a real sign?
Yeah, it's in Baghdad.
I will say that there's no correlation between high intelligence and low social skills. The data proves that out. That's a common thought that isn't true. But I will say also, divisive.
Why are you talking Ivy for?
Wait a second. So, divisive, you're onto something here because we're getting sort of or self hypnosis is occurring here because we're thinking about this in a left right way without disambiguating what this idea of liberal is. Because the Jimmy Carter liberal is one that has some kind of feeling of the numinous, nobody with a sense of the divine spark within them would just go murder another innocent human being. They wouldn't do that. This was Carl Jung's fear, and he was really sort of prophetic about this, about how if people lost their sense of something transcendent within them, that they would be so vulnerable to becoming robot people, that the state that Nietzsche called the coldest of all monsters would avail itself of this weakness. And by the way, that weakness also transfers into a weakness of self-esteem and all the things that divisive. Now, who would do this? What group of people, and I'm sorry it keeps coming back to this, what group of people have taken advantage of this? What group of people is shoving all of the drugs into these kids and into young adults and into adults in general? What group of people is promoting this nihilistic way of thinking? What group of people is basically promoting the idea that morals don't exist? Remember, if you want to really conquer a people, you have to denude their moral presence. And that means that you have literally demoralized them. They can't come back from that. You've truly conquered them because you've conquered their spirits, you've conquered their souls. So it's not this idea this is left and right. No, no, no. This is the state and the people who control it. It does come back to a group of people, the people who also have the giant megaphones of society, whether it be the media in Hollywood, promoting this idea of amoralism. If the devil's ruse is that he doesn't exist, the roots of these people is that morals don't exist, that right and wrong don't exist. If you can convince a young person going through all of those other problems, those natural organic problems to which Divisive just referred, then you can get them to do anything. And that's truly horrifying for the future.
Yeah, completely agree with what you said there, David. You always speak a lot of sense, to be honest. I'm always on the same page with you. And now, in terms of what do you call it again? One thing I haven't heard Dalton say. Dalton, I thought you were gonna. Let me tee you up on this, bro. Let me tee you up on this one. So, what's his name again? Kash Patel makes a statement, and this is what I wrote on the tweet. I wrote, "Why would Charlie Kirk be in Valhalla?" He wrote, "To my friend Charlie Kirk, rest now, brother. We have the watch, and I'll see you in Valhalla." Dalton, what's your thoughts on this?
Suman, I don't even think. Is it really worth me talking about? I mean, here's I want to give people my take on this. I'm glad that you signaled this over to me because besides that point, which that's totally ridiculous.
I know how to
in
bring
my
the
mind.
bro, but Valhalla, bro. Are you guys Christians?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Exactly. You would think that Kash Patel would have the common decency to go up there and say, Charlie Kirk may, he rest in heaven, pray for his soul, something along those lines. Obviously, he didn't do that. Another point I wanted to make about Kash Patel in particular is I don't know how I was angry last night, right before Nick went live and everything. I was really livid at the fact that they went on that press conference. Kash Patel had nothing to say, walked off. Now they're going to act like they succeeded in this. They found this guy. The dad turned him in. It wasn't the FBI that did this. As far as I'm concerned, this is a total and complete operational failure on the intelligence community. There is nothing that screamed him in. It wasn't the FBI that did this. As far as I